So, first off, Mark, Going All the Way, I've been doing this for so long that I actually remember watching Going All the Way at a screening room. Do not know which screening room it was, but I remember the PR people, whoever's, they sent me a Going All the Way soundtrack to accompany my review and whatnot. I forget if there was some kind of press junket. I remember loving the soundtrack and being introduced to some music of the day and also really appreciating the coming of age story. I was probably in my early to mid 20s then, but now at 51, seeing it, it's just so much more of a deeper film. So can you speak to that?
Yeah.
Two different
Yeah. Who
filmmakers.
were you writing for? Who were you?
I worked for Westwood One for about 19 years. So I used to do a radio prep service for them. So Going All the Way was part of it. I really remember enjoying it. I'm a huge Leslie Ann Warren fan. So really, I think if I had only had a complaint one time, I said, I wish there was more Leslie back in the day. So, but now it's great. There's so much more extra footage. But
Yeah.
just can
Right.
you
So you
speak?
probably came to the press junket at like the Four Seasons or something like that. And
Yes, yes.
in those days, I
Oh
love
my,
those days.
yeah,
Well, so
50
look,
pounds of, go ahead.
we've kind of like, I'm a little bit older. I'm 60, but I think the same kind of arc, right? You're in your early 20s. I was in my early 30s. I make the film, a book I read from age 13 on, read it every year, dog-eared, like just loved it, loved it, loved it, and say, this is going to be my first movie, and go through the process of get Dan Wakefield to write it, make it, get funding, be able to cast who we want, as long as we cast two names as the women, right? And auditioned all sorts of crazy people for the roles, like just got to meet everybody, every young actor at the time, get to make it, shoot it in the city where it took place, get the writer of the novel to write the screenplay, and it comes to life in front of you, and you shoot 30 days, 135-page script. You're like, what? And then edit it and get it to Sundance, and you sell it, which is a miracle because that's all it was at the time, was about, is like, can you sell your movie? Is you get out there. And so the movie that came out in 97 was like, at the time, I was happy with it. And the stuff that was lifted out to get the length, the beard sequence in the quarry, it hurt. But at the time, like, it wasn't in my control, but it wasn't some fight about like, oh, you took it away. Every choice, it's incremental along the way, right? Every choice is like, well, we don't maybe need this, or how about would the movie be like this? But over the years, I always said like, performances were good. The movie the movie was never as good as the book was to me, right? The book, in my love of the book, I always felt like privately it was a little bit of a failure, a little bit of like, it's kind of like semi-successful, but kind of a lot of first-timer mistakes, a lot of lessons learned, right? So you'd go make really, really work hard on Arlington Road, and okay, you get better, you get better. In each film, you get better, but new challenges and new things. Mixing tone, balancing tones. Like, wow, I got a lot better at mixing comedy and drama in later films, but still realize I'm not Hal Ashby. I never will be Hal Ashby, but or Cameron Crowe, right? Or Sam Mendes. But you have to be yourself, and you grow as an artist and as a man, and then you go through loss and joy and all these things that you learn. So the scene of like Sonny and his mother talking about age and getting older, wow, what that meant to me at 34, my father had just died and I was getting ready to get married, is different now than years later, right? Having a child, being a widower, like my parents gone, like, so I'm seeing the world through a different lens now, right? Because of time and life experience and everything. To add on to that, cinematic experience, artistic experience, maturity, restraint, sometimes not restraint, sometimes go more full circle the way I was in the 80s, experimental. So each thing kind of collides within itself that you apply to any piece you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So this mistake of like, wow, finding the tape of the old editor's assembly, giving it to Leo Trombetta, the original editor, putting it on a drive and saying, Leo, why don't you look at this? Him saying, hey, I think I've been tooling around with it. What do you think? We're like, wow, that's great. What do we do with it? Cut to doing some work on Mothman Prophecies TV version, say to the people that own the rights, you know, you got this Ben Affleck movie that nobody ever saw. Right? Nobody ever saw this movie. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. Dollar signs, maybe. Connect to, hey, you should meet Oscilloscope. They've been doing 90s edits, re-releases of 90s movies. Maybe they'll like it. Show it to them. Show it to some people. Sure. If you can do it for this price, that's my middle name. Of course we can, right? By hook or by crook. You're saying I have a chance to release a new version of my first film, a re-edit, right? Yep. Okay, I'm going to put new score in it. Great. I want to put new titles in it. Great. It's your version of it. So the creative freedom and the opportunity, all it relied on was my hard work and tenacity to like go find every scrap of film and just push this project along from where really one guy, Dan Berger at Oscilloscope, and me were really the only two people who really cared about doing it. Lakeshore, who on the right, so they didn't care. It didn't make fiscal sense for them. But we push to make it happen. And sure enough, now 4K restoration, a version of the film that's really a better version of the story interpreting the book. Dan Wakefield, the writer, is 90. He got to see it before glaucoma has taken his sight, and he loved it.
Wow.
And
that must mean so much to you.
Oh my God, it's incredible. That's full circle. It's like the love to be able to, he gave me this gift of this novel 46 years ago. 46 years ago, I read the novel for the first time. And now to be able to come full circle and tell it now with Leo and with Pete Adams, the composer, and all the people has been just, it's a, you know, whatever. It's like a redo. It's a miracle, right? So, you know, it's a I mean, people don't get a chance to redo their first movie, right? Do they? I mean, usually, not really.
You know, me living in Culver City, watching your film, and I never did read the book, but watching your film, when I thought going all the way, me at 27, 28 was thinking about how does a young guy get to seduce women and actually come of age as a man. But now for me, going all the way regarding your cut, it's just how does Sonny re-engage in life with tragedy and loss behind him, and maybe even moving forward. I mean, it must feel great for you as an artist to actually learn those facts and then craft your tools as a filmmaker. But for me as a cinephile watching it, I realized that, you know, I lost my father in 2016 and I have a deeper understanding of your movie. I mean, sometimes do you ever wish sometimes you were ignorant and you could turn back time and go back to where you didn't have that profound sense of what the story was? You know what I'm saying? Like there's a bittersweet kind of sacrifice.
Yeah, you only know, look, you only know what you know at the time, right? And you make the choice based on what you know. And let's hope 20 years from now, I can make a movie and that'll be the accrued wisdom or experience or whatever. I've made some stuff in the last couple of years that's really dark and really experimental and really pushing the envelope, like in a way that I used to do like in my 20s at MTV. It's just this newfound like confidence and have many more movies I want to make as the business changes and it's harder and harder to get them made. You can't just say, oh, I want to go make that. Like, okay, what does that mean? How do you get it financed? Who's going to be in it? Like, it's tough. It's a tough time to make movies, right? To make movies that mean something. So to just get a chance to do this and like, okay, let's start by re-editing this one, right? And like, who knows? Maybe somebody sees it. I hope people see it as a new movie because you saw it originally, but most people did not. And most of the people who will see this now will just look at it as a new movie. Oscilloscope's like, we don't care about the old movie. This is a new movie.
Mark, in fairness, though, if people who haven't seen your movie actually see your movie with this re-edit, is there value added after watching this version, your current version, to go back and watch the original? As far as you're talking about fuller circle, or do you think this is just the version? Don't worry about the earlier version. What is your state on that?
I'd say go read the book. Go read the book, because you'd be like, you could watch the old version and be like, oh wow, there's another scene of the mother doing that repetitive. There's a character of a preacher that the mom brings over to try and like teach Sonny to stop masturbating. Okay. What's more interesting, that or Gunnar growing a beard and the anti-Semitic accusations and his journey, and them going to the art museum again and going to the pool, right? Well, that says a lot more about the 50s than this preacher and the quarry and restoring the quarry and the fire and these things that weren't in the movie. Like, it's just it's much deeper. It's longer. It's 25 minutes longer. It's 30 minutes longer than what was released. So it's deeper and richer and more complete. So if you watch the other one, you'd be like, yeah, it just would feel like, yeah, okay, yes, I know that. I know that thing. Oh, that's it. It would probably be like, wow, that's cool. That's a good scene. I get it. But you'd be like, oh, where's that? If you had seen you'd be like, oh wait, the whole beard, and you realize, wow, editing, you can lift something out and you never know it's missing, right? If you didn't know it was there, right, you didn't know that he went and grew a beard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It went from what's Sonny doing to, hey, you should meet my friend, Marty's got a friend, Gail Thayer. But so less scenes with Marty, less, just,
Yeah.
you don't know what's missing.
Mark, not like you have any time, but you have an extensive archive dating back years and years, and you're great. I've listened to you on various podcasts. You're great in them. Have you ever thought of doing your own podcast, for as far as just like as a deep dive PSA for cinephiles, just to really analyze your work or just your filmmaking journey? Because that would be catnip for I think so many people. Just throwing that out there. Have you ever entertained it, I guess?
No, nobody's ever brought it up. I wouldn't even know, I mean, I know people that do some podcast studios, and I would love to do it because I could talk to people, about their work and connection to my work, and just like whether it's a musician or different people, there's a lot of people that I would love to talk about the creative process with, and and I don't know the idea of, you're the first person that's brought it up. Would people want to, would they be interested?
I mean, it'd be great for, I mean, I'm just thinking as a listener, not as a producer, but as just a first person narrative on your journey, just with other filmmakers. I mean, just the thing you did on the movie Crypt, talking about how music video is in a way lost its art form. I could have listened to 90 minutes of freaking that, or maybe a deep dive into the Mothman prophecies and why over the years it continues to gain momentum from cinephiles, or just, I mean, so many different things.
I mean, whether they're interested in me or how I could contextualize it so it's using my journey to explore other things, like, okay, the culture of music videos, or being ahead of your time, or what is the relationship between a dance film and a music video and a documentary. I think, I had written a book that is supposed to be published, and it's about my process of making all these things in different mediums over the years. It's called The Visualist. And the idea was like, he did mention, oh, maybe there's a podcast idea where, great, and you can use the frame of that book, say, I'm going to get Jeff Bridges, just call people you've worked with and just say, do this thing. And maybe, I don't know enough about podcasts, like how do you structure it, or what would you do, or but certainly there'd be a lot of different people that I've worked with or experienced that I could probably bring in, or designing what that could be, bring somebody in, then bring somebody else in and let them talk, and then we share, and then you hand off to the next person, and that becomes half of the next show. That would be fun. That would be fun to do.
I'm sure there's, yeah, I just hope one day it comes to fruition. You have so many things to do. But you know what? Before I let you go, you have a really extensive resume. For our Cinematics listeners, can you name one film along with Going All the Way that you would recommend for us to watch? A film of yours that you feel is a little bit underrated and should definitely merit to watch in a discussion.
I Melt with You.
Oh, I've never seen that. What was that? 2011, 2012. When was that? 2000, around that time? Was that? Yeah, My Fault. That wasn't, who starred in that? I think that wasn't Piven, right?
Tom
I don't.
Jane, Rob
Thomas
Lowe,
Jane. Yeah, yes.
highly polarized, excoriated at Sundance. Like, oh my God, you would have thought that I just burned people alive with how much people hated that movie.
Wow.
It's one of my favorite films. It's growing in its little appreciation now.
Right. Okay.
Like
Okay.
that movie and my 2018 movie, Nostalgia, I love, but those were probably the least seen.
Okay. And
Nostalgia was with John Hamm and
right.
Kathleen Keener, Bruce Dern. I love both of them.
Yeah. I mean, and also last question is right off, as a cinephile, right off the top of your head, and this is a very impossible question. Can you name one of your all-time favorite films? And I apologize. And what is it about this movie that resonates with you just as a movie fan? Just one, not the only one, but one of your favorites.
All the President's Men, Blue Velvet, Jaws, those three for different reasons. I mean, All the President's Men is just, it's like the perfect movie. Fatal Attraction is the perfect movie, right? It's just like, it's
Yeah,
literally the way it's built. Um, I mean, I have tons that I'll go back. I just watched Cold War for like the fourth time. I'm
I
like, oh
love
my
that
God,
film.
discovering new things about that film.
It's an amazing film.
Um, yeah, I
Well,
loved Decision to Leave and Tar, and those are my two films. And I go to the movies all the time. I really liked Emily the Criminal. I like Aubrey Plaza, and I was never really into fantasy or like growing up. I was never into like that kind of thing. I was like realism. Sidney Lumet,
yeah.
love Billy Wilder, Lynch.
Yeah. Samuel Fuller, you ever got to get to him? Sam Fuller is great.
No, I got to get turned on. I got to like do a dive on that.
It's amazing.
But like,
Yeah.
I was probably in my 30s before I discovered Cassavetes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So Oscilloscope, Going All the Way, the director's edit, where can people find it? I think you did a Q&A the other night, but is it rolling out? And please, for physical media enthusiasts like me, is there a prayer that maybe one day it will come out on the physical medium?
Okay. There is going to be a Blu-ray that has deleted scenes, the final film, all the deleted scenes that were in the original cut, a 3-hour making of documentary about the original version, the restoration, etc. Tons of other stills, rare ephemera. There will be a beautiful Blu-ray package that comes out, and it's being released in about 10 cities. It starts now in LA. There's some dates next week at the Laemmle Royal, Glendale. Then it's going to New York, December 16th. And I would think people probably go to the Oscilloscope website. That's probably the best way to find out, or my social media, Instagram and Facebook. I'll constantly just kind of post, post what's going on and where it's going on.
Mark, again, really love Going All the Way. This Redux second time around. Loved both versions, but this was a deeper experience for me. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Real pleasure. Thanks for talking to you.